great lovers of Srimati Radharani, as you all know by now, is Raghunath Das Goswami. He loved Vrindavan. He loved Lord Chaitanya, and he loved Vrindavan, particularly loved Govardhan Hill, but he particularly loved Srimati Radharani. So in his writing, Stava Mala is the title, and there's different subsections, and one of those subsections is this one, Vilapa Krishna Manjali, celebrated section, and he has a series of prayers. This is verse number 16 from his series of prayers, and I'll recite the verse. If you want to recite with me, you're more than welcome. Padam jayos tabavina varadasya nanyat kadapi samaye kida deviyache sankyayate mama namostu nityam dasyayam te mama raso stu nat satyam. Nice sounding verse, and here's the translation. Oh, most beautifully resplendent goddess, Radharani, I shall never ask you for anything other than the service of your lotus feet as a maid servant. Again and again I offer my obeisances from a distance to the desire of becoming your Saki. Again and again I desire to relish the sweet nectar of your service as a maidservant. Some of you may know Raghunath Das Goswami was so fixed, like Sanatana Goswami, it's both described, that they were so fixed in their vows that their vows were like lines in stone. At the same time, that sadhana, keeping of vows, may come, and in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, it came to the stage of from sadhana bhakti to raga bhakti. You've heard the term raga bhakti. Raga bhakti indicates spontaneous rag, as opposed to sadhana. Sadhana means following the vidhis of sadhana, the do's and the do-nots of sadhana, or following the vidhis, the vaidhi sadhana bhakti. It can lead to spontaneous devotional service, but spontaneous devotional service has the very exact element that's here, and that is amongst those souls that are perfected, or in the language of Rupa Goswami, who describes this spontaneous devotional service, it's the ragatmikas. To develop raga bhakti, you become an ardent follower of a particular ragatmika bhakta. And in his case, Radharani is the perfected ragatmika devotee. So he doesn't want anything else, he wants that only. He's very, very fixed. And may he or his spiritual identity is, according to our acharyas, he is a manjari. Raghunath Das Goswami, in his spiritual form, is a manjari. The manjaris are young girls that assist Radharani. So that is his position. That's his only aspiration. It's completely spiritual. It's a desire, but he wants to be a maidservant. So I wanted to divide this evening's presentation into a few pieces. One of them is some verses describing the glories of Srimati Radharani, as we've touched on several of them already, but chapter 4 of Adi Leela. And by the end of this visit, you're going to be a little bit familiar with and probably want to read chapter 4 of Adi Leela. Now, chapter 4 of Adi Leela is not only about Radharani, but there's a very substantial section about Radharani. And one of those verses starts with verse 83, and there's very little purport for verse 83, and then there's several verses that are explaining verse 83. So that's where we're going to begin. So just as a prelude to 83, here's 82. Radha is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda. She is the enchantress of Govinda. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda and the crest jewel of all his consorts. Now, the verse previous is describing the collection, the array, the many, many, many gopis, and amongst all the gopis, she is the crest jewel of all his consorts. And then comes verse 83. The transcendental goddess, Srimati Radharani, is the direct counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna. She is the central figure for all the goddesses of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. Now, more specifically, she's the Hladini Shakti portion of the internal potency of the Lord. But here he's saying, or it's being translated as, she is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. Now, the only one sentence purport to this verse is, the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, is quoting Brihad Gautamiya Tantra. That's it. That's the purport. And there's several verses that follow that explain the terms of this verse that you see on the screen, 83. Devi, so it starts, Devi Krishna Mayi Prokta. Devi Krishna Mayi Prokta. Devi means resplendent and most beautiful, quote unquote. Or else it means the lovely abode of the worship and love sports of Lord Krishna. So Devi is the person, and most beautiful, resplendent, opulent Devi, that's Radha. And it can also, Devi can indicate the place where Radha and Krishna enjoy their pastimes. So it starts, Devi Krishnamayi Prokta. Krishnamayi, verse 85, means one, quote, one who's within and without our Lord Krishna. Krishnamayi. She sees Krishna wherever she casts her glance. That's outside, and then inside. Look inside Radharani, what do you see, Krishna? The outside, she sees everywhere Krishna, and she has a form, but her function is, her consciousness is Krishna. Everywhere, inside and outside. Krishnamayi, Devi, Krishnamayi, Prokta. We know the meaning of Prokta. Prokta, it is said. Or, this is verse number 86. Krishnamayi means she is identical with Lord Krishna, for she embodies the mellows of love. One who embodies the mellows of love for some object, person, they become identical with that which they have love for, the object which they have love for. They become like. And in her case, the love is so intense and complete that her inside is also Krishna, Krishnamayi. She is identical with Lord Krishna, for she embodies the mellows of love. The energy of Krishna is identical with him. Now, a little philosophy. There's a lot of nice understandings. A little philosophy. is also a nice understanding. The oneness and difference teaching. During our discussion, you brought up the topic of Sri Vaishnavas and others who are not in this line. They have a certain, I was using yesterday, a certain lens. So they have a standard way, and there of the four sampradayas, there's the founder of that sampradaya, or that founder is amongst the four sampradayas. There's a person who had predecessors, and that person who had the predecessors gathered the essence of the teachings of the predecessors and summarized it in a very terse, systematic manner. So like Ramanujacharya, there were the Alvars that preceded him. He didn't go on a creative writing spree. He summarized the teachings of the Alvars that explained the teachings of the Vedas, and from the perspective of Shri, the goddess of fortune, Shri, who is the originator of that sampradaya, he summarized and systematized the lens, or the teachings, through which the whole of the scripture is looked at, which means the whole of material and spiritual world, through that lens. And that lens is very much in the Aishvarya mood, the Vaikuntha mood, the opulence of the Supreme, and just simply looking up with reverence. In service, but reverential service, primarily. And not so much emphasis on the other rasas, but the dasya rasa, very strong. Very strong. Very strong. And therefore, for example, in the Sri Sampradaya, the personalities of the narration of Ramayana is very prevalent. Many Sri Vaishnavacharyas commented upon it. And in Ramayana, two very important personalities are Hanuman, because he's an emblem of Dasya Rasa, and Lord Ramachandra's brother, emblem of Dasya Rasa. Lakshman simply saw himself as the servant of Ram. He was in his constant association, but that constant association didn't breed familiarity. It was always there. Ram invited the familiarity. Hanuman backed off the familiarity. I'm the servant. There's examples right within Ramayana, so it's very, very clear. So Dasya, with awe and veneration towards Bhagavan. Now, from the teachings of Sri Vaishnavism, Lakshman is also in the Vishnu Tattva category. All four brothers are in the Vishnu Tattva category. But amongst the Vishnu Tattva categories, what to speak of the jivas towards Bhagavan, it's looking up with great awe and veneration towards the original source of everything, the original source of everything, spirit and matter, the spiritual realm, the material realm. The Ram's position is very clear, and then each of the three brothers, they represent a particular regard in submissive service to the Supreme, rather than going through the whole picture of how Sri Vaishnavas, each of the four sampradayas have they have a lens of systematically looking at everything that's within the scripture, and it's consistent. Vishnu is supreme, Vishnu is supreme, Vishnu is supreme, and how Vishnu is regarded, there's variations, but Vishnu is supreme. And then that which comes from Vishnu is also with variety, but Vishnu is the source of everything. There's one absolute truth, not multiple absolute truths. And then how they regard the Lila avatars, for example, and the other avatars, for example. The lens through which they look is a particular lens. There's a comprehensive explanation of everything. Matter and spirit. Their commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, their explanations of everything. The lens is consistent. And within the lens or the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is this consideration of oneness and difference, simultaneous, which is unique. Rather than a class on, Vishishta Dvaita and Advaita and Dvaitavad and, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching is the combination. There's a simultaneous, inconceivable oneness between the energetic and the energy from the energetic, and then different categories of energy, spiritual and material, and divisions of spiritual and divisions of material, but there's absolute oneness and difference simultaneously. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. So when it comes to this Krishnamayi, she is identical with Lord Krishna. She's identical with Lord Krishna and not identical with Lord Krishna. But this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita is emphasizing one of the two, and it's not wrong. It's right. Purport. Prabhupada's purport to this verse. The energy of Lord Krishna is identical with him. Krishnamayi has two different imports. First, a person who always thinks of Krishna both within and without, and who always remembers only Krishna wherever he goes or whatever he sees, that person is called Krishnamayi. So it's not a he, it's a she. Radharani is Krishnamayi. That's the definition of what Krishnamayi means, and she's Krishnamayi. Also, since Krishna's personality is full of love, his loving potency, Radharani, being non-different from him, is also called Krishnamayi. So it's her vision and her experience and her love, Krishnamayi. So the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, is referring to a verse from Scripture. Now he's unpacking the terms of the verse. So we'll go back to the verse number 83. Devi Krishnamayi Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mayi Sarva Kanti Samohini Para. Her worship or aradhana consists of fulfilling the desires of Lord Krishna. Therefore, the Puranas call her Radhika. The Puranas call her Radhika. Why they call her Radhika? It's Radha. Because her worship is fulfilling Krishna's desires. So Radhika. Purport. The name Radha is derived from the root word aradhana, which means worship. The personality who excels all in worshipping Krishna may therefore be called Radhika, the greatest servitor. That's Prabhupada's purport to this explanation of Krishnadas Kaviraj, a very simple definition of Radharani. Who is she? Next verse, 88. This is the Bhagavatam verse from Canto 10, Chapter 30. Quote, truly the personality of God has been worshipped by her. No name is mentioned. Therefore, Lord Govinda, being pleased, has brought her to a lonely spot, leaving all of us behind. So this is from the Rasa Lila section, Canto 10, Chapter 30. And it's a reference to Radharani without mentioning her name. Therefore, Radharani is Parama Devata, the supreme goddess. And she is worshipable for everyone. She is the protectress. Sarva Palika. Palika. Pala is a word that means protection. So she's Sarva Palika. She's the protectress. Palika, it's feminine. She is the protectress of all. Sarva Palika. And she is the mother of the entire universe. Sarva Jagatera Mata. Mother of the entire universe. She's a very qualified personality. And in the verse, the word Sarva Lakshmi is there. And Krishna Das Kaviraj writes, I have already explained the meaning of Sarva Lakshmi. Radha is the original source of all the goddesses of fortune. So Sarva Lakshmi. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Very clear. Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune. Lakshmi, the consort of Narayana. And Radha is Sarva Lakshmi. She's the source of all Lakshmis. Because there are many Narayana forms of the Lord, and each of them has his Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Narayan, and Radha is the source of all as Krishna is the source of the expansions of Narayan, Radha is the source of the expansions of all the Lakshmis. So therefore she's Sarva Lakshmi. Or, this is next verse 91, Sarva Lakshmi indicates that she fully represents the 6 opulences of Krishna. And what are the 6 opulences of Krishna? So the opulences of Krishna, there's unlimited opulences, but the 6, the reference to 6 is the 6 primary out of the unlimited. And the characteristics of Bhagavan are these 6. He who possesses all bhagas, or the 6 opulences in full. And everyone else may have some of this, or some of that, or some combination of this and that. So every living entity has some. But Krishna is not just some. Krishna is all, and all 6 in full. And that's, by definition, that's who Bhagavan is. So rather than calling somebody as Bhagavan, because there are persons that like that title, Bhagavan something something. But Bhagavan means the possessor of all 6 opulences in full. So someone that bears that name or title, it may be nice or flattery, but the person isn't to be understood as Bhagavan because they have a title or some go by that nomenclature. And similarly, Radharani is all 6 opulences in full. Because Krishna has Bhagavan, he has all 6 opulences. She has Radharani. He's a Shaktiman and she's the Shakti. So she is all 6 opulences in fullness, moving around in pastimes with Krishna. And Krishna knows and she knows. And then they have loving exchanges of varieties of loving activities, as we've been hearing. So the reason for going through Chaitanya Charitamrita this evening is maybe would have been a good thing to do at the very beginning, but it's to establish the foundational understandings that are the basis and support for the Leelas. We'll say the opposite. Supposing one doesn't have a foundational understanding and one hears Leelas, A or B? Mythology, or B, accepting these activities, the pastimes with Krishna and his associates, not just with the gopis, but anyone, everyone, as worldly. And because he has some worldliness in a special way, he is honored. So people may honor Krishna thinking he has material form and he has some special powers. But they still think he has a material form. They don't, there's without a proper understanding. Or just dismiss it all. It's mythology. So those are more common than having a proper understanding. And having a proper understanding, how do you get a proper understanding? Hear from authoritative sources. This is now, I'm pausing because I'm tempted to go to Tattva Sandarbha because I'm a fan of Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami wrote 6 Sandarbhas, and the first of them is this number 1, Tattva. And let me just do a very quick introduction to Tattva Sandarbha. In Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami begins, I want to talk about Krishna. But before I talk about Krishna, it is appropriate and responsible to establish that what is the means by which one can know that topic. You need some basis and support for how to know that topic about anything. Then he goes through, the options by sense perception, by reason, and by hearing from authority. Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. From Sanskrit, from the teaching, basic teachings. Those are the 3 ways that there's divisions, but ways by which people know things. Seeing is believing, they say. Is Missouri the state they call it the show me state? Yes? The show me state? See, if you can show it to me, then I can accept. I'm from Missouri. But our senses, so we go through the whole thing. Senses are imperfect, we make mistakes. So seeing isn't the best. Then reasoning similarly isn't the best because I may be good logician, but somebody else may be a better logician, and my logic doesn't establish truth. And another person's better logic doesn't establish truth, and there's a whole explanation that Anuman, or reason and logic, is not the best. And then comes Shabda. But then Shabda has its limits also, because there may be a person, that the source of that sound, Shabda, that's an imperfect being. So then we need Apurusheya Shabda. So you can go through step by step. And what's that Apurusheya? So there's Vedas. And then amongst the Vedas, what's the best of the Vedas? Vedaischa Sarvar Aham. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So that's a good start. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So let's take authority from the Vedas. But then there's this person, that person, the other person that understand the Vedas in different ways. They have different lenses to look at the same thing. So what's the best lens? And so he goes through step by step. It's very systematic. And to fast forward, he concludes by narrating how Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedas, and he wasn't satisfied, and then Narada came along and instructed him to do what he did, and then he goes through an explanation of the meditation upon the absolute truth instruction that Narada gave to Vyasa and what his realizations were, and he goes through those verses, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 4 through 6, and the realizations of Vyasa. And that's the absolute truth. That's Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the best pramana of all the Vedas, confirmed by Vyasa, who compiled the Vedas. So if you want to circling back, I want to talk about Krishna. The authority to know about the topic I want to speak about is Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's writing a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam when the starting point is I want to talk about Krishna. Brilliant. And there's lots of details I'm not including, but he covers all the details. So if we want to know about Radharani, how are we going to know about Radharani? From the scripture. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that we just recited, Canto 10, Chapter 30, a verse where he took her to a secluded place. Doesn't mention her name, but it gives some description of her. Right in the Bhagavatam. There's other verses I was thinking to cover this evening, but I'll let you all do that. If you so desire. Canto 10, Chapter 5, verse number 30. 10:5:30. And there's a verse that after Krishna has appeared, and the place where he appeared, of course, is the house of Nanda. But the place where he appeared is a place where also the goddess of fortune will appear. Shortly thereafter, right in the verse. And she's the goddess of fortune. So her identity is explained right in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Her name isn't given, but her position is identified as being eternally connected to Krishna. And then in other texts, her name is identified on the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, the best of all authorities to know about Krishna. I'll carry on. The word Sarvakanti also indicates that all beauty and luster rest in her body. All the Lakshmis derive their beauty from her. So later on, in this chapter, Adi Lila, chapter 4, there's a statement, we heard this a few days back. Radharani is the source of all Shaktis. All Shaktis means the queens in Dwarka, the Lakshmis, the goddesses of fortune. All Lakshmis or goddesses of fortune are her expansions, and all the gopis are her expansions. We heard this yesterday, specifically at the temple. Each of the Ashta Sakis, and not just the Ashta, but all of the Sakis, they have abilities. From where did they get those abilities? From Radha, because she's the source of all abilities. She's the source of all the Shaktis that have this ability, that ability, and some are good at music, and some are good at cooking, and some are good at painting, and some are good at writing, and some are good at different things. But she's the repository of all those perfections, and they're her expansions, and they assist her in giving pleasure to Krishna. That they don't do anything else. There's varieties of how they go about their activity of giving pleasure to Krishna, but there's nothing else. As with Radharani, there's nothing else for the gopis. And then there's intensities within the goddesses of fortune, the Lakshmis, and intensities amongst the queens. And then superlative and most complete is the gopis. But they're all in the same category. They're expansions of Radha. So that's the Radha Tattva. Unpacking this verse 83. Here we are, we're already on verse 93. Kanti may also mean, quote, all the desires of Lord Krishna. All the desires of Lord Krishna, Sarva Kanti. All desires of Lord Krishna rest in Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radhika, quote, Srimati Radhika fulfills all the desires of Lord Krishna. This is the meaning of Sarvakanti. So that's who Radharani is. She fulfills all the desires of Krishna. Then finally, this is still on verse 83, and Krishnadas Kaviraj is unpacking the terms of the words from Brihat Naradiya Purana. Lord Krishna enchants the world, but Sri Radha enchants even him. Therefore, she is the supreme goddess of all. Sri Radha is the full power, and Lord Krishna is the possessor of full power. The two are not different, as evidenced by the revealed scriptures. They are indeed the same, just as musk and its scent are inseparable. I've been repeatedly saying the sun and sunshine in the same. Another metaphor is musk and the scent of the musk. Or another example is fire and heat and light. If you have fire, you're going to have heat and light. It can be a small fire, big fire, heat and light. Or conversely, if there's heat or there's light, there's fire. Just like, here's a projector, and it's probably hot. There's heat, and there's light. So it's fire. But it's not the fire that the thing is bursting into flames kind of fire, but it's the electrons. The electrons is fire. And you go back and back. If you understand the sambandha, the existential basis of things, and explain those in proper terms according to Sankhya philosophy, there's fire. It has its qualities, or musk has its qualities, or the sun has its qualities. How about this? Can we take a 2-minute pause? Everybody that's in the front, move a little forward. Everyone in the front, move a little forward. Those behind those in the front, you move in a little bit forward behind those that were in the front, moving forward. And leave a space for people that may come a little bit later. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption. So the musk metaphor, the fire metaphor, the sun and the sunshine metaphor, that the oneness can be identified, but the difference must also be identified. The fragrance isn't the musk. The musk has fragrance, so they're one, but they're not identical. The energy is not identical with the energetic, and the energy is identical, or inseparable from. Radha is the full power, and Lord Krishna the possessor of full power. The two are not different, as evidenced by the revealed scriptures. They are indeed the same, just as musk and its scent are inseparable, whereas fire and its heat are non-different. Thus, Radha and Lord Krishna are one, yet they have taken two forms to enjoy the mellows of pastimes. Now, the mellows of pastimes means, we discussed this, we're just covering the same point now from the lens of, or the perspective of, Chaitanya Charitamrita. To have love, there has to be two. You can't have love without two, or more than two, but minimum two. Lover, the abode of love and the object, the subject and object, like sentence construction. You go to grammar school and grade school, you learn how to write a sentence. Subject, object, and predicate and a verb. It's really simple. So the subject and object. How do you have a sentence without a subject and an object? It's not a sentence. It's words, but it's not a sentence. So, love requires two. And loving pastimes requires two or more, or expansions of one or the other, and thus varieties. of love. But the source is these two, Radha Krishna. For the purpose of pastimes, the purpose of loving exchange. So we have been discussing for a number of days on pastimes of Radha and Krishna, exchanges of love. And sometimes, and sometimes, and sometimes. And they're very, very amazing. But it's not fiction, it's just loving exchange between these two, the object and subject. And Krishna likes being in the position that she's the object and I'm the subject. He likes. Then this topic of Radha is now going to move quickly, and I'm not going to go into it because it's another topic. It's going to go into who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To promulgate Prema Bhakti, or devotional service in love of Godhead, Krishna appeared as Sri Krishna Chaitanya with the mood and complexion of Radha. Thus I have explained the meaning of the fifth verse. So, the fifth verse, in the structure of Chaitanya Charitamrita by the Kavi, by the poetic author Krishnadas Kaviraj, has made some number of initial assertions in the very beginning. And he make, da 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 da. I'm going to make some assertions. And then I'm going to explain each one of them little by little, and go to the next one, and then to the next one, to the next one. That's the structure. That's how it starts in the Adi Lila section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's not just mechanical and comprehensive. It's also very sweet, but it allows one to understand what's what. Supposing you don't understand what's what, and you hear about Lord Chaitanya and you're perplexed. New people may hear about Lord Chaitanya and they're a little perplexed. I'm pausing. Somebody sent me just today, a disciple of Prabhupada sent me a little trailer for a new movie about Lord Chaitanya. And it's a really high-end cinematographic presentation of who is Lord Chaitanya, with just the storyline of Chaitanya Charitamrita, but the sophistication of the technology and the camera work and the actors and so forth it's quite amazing and quite expensive, I'm sure, too. And it was taken 500 plus years for somebody to get around to making such a movie. And they want to raise funds for the movie because it's costly to put out a presentation like this. They probably have their money, but anyway, that's okay. They can ask for donations to put the movie together. And the movie is taking, as the distribution of Chaitanya Charitamrita has taken, a writing that goes back to Krishnadas Kaviraj that's taken the structure of Lord Chaitanya's life, and now they're putting it in a movie form. Apparently, from what I can see, it's following the history of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So rather than going into how was Chaitanya Charitamrita composed, that's another discussion. But the author Krishnadas Kaviraj was gifted, and he had the proper pramana. His two main sources, they had multiple, but two main, was Raghunath Das Goswami, and the other was the diary of Murari Gupta. And the diary of Murari Gupta was narrating the pastimes of Krishna in Navadvip. And then Raghunath Das Goswami also had a copy of the personal diary of Swarup Damodar, along with what Swarup Damodar taught him. So he knew all about the Puri pastimes, And Murari Gupta knew all about the Navadvip pastimes. So it's the Navadvip and then Puri. And then his travel to Vrindavan and so many other things. And that's Chaitanya Charitamrita's source. Now, along with it is the structure. He, Krishnadas Kaviraj, is explaining in a very organized, systematic, elegant manner who is Lord Chaitanya, his life and teachings, both, in a very beautiful way. It was a very important book for devotees. Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, the undergraduate, the graduate study, Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita, systematically studying. No, it doesn't. You can just do it in a reading group. You can have a nice teacher and have a formal, structured study. That's super fantastic. There are ways to go about doing that, but it's a big commitment of time. And otherwise, just in your sangha, locally, or this place, that place. There's sanghas of devotees in different geographic location, but by Zoom and other facilities, they have systematic training in these texts. And it's nice. Or just little reading groups and you read together. Little by little, little by little, little by little. Some of you are probably already doing that. And it's good. I came across somebody recently, their little reading group, they're on their third time around reading Srimad Bhagavatam together. Because that's just, little by little. They're not like fanatics. They're not sannyasis or brahmacharis. They're householders with responsibility. But, they're committed to hearing in the association of devotees. And it's going in. They're on their third time around. They're already anticipating what's next, because they're familiar with the text. And when by that process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with the Bhaktivedanta purports, you know what it does? It transforms the heart. Someone here, just here in St. Louis, there was a question. How does hearing work? What is it about this hearing? It's sound. And the sound vibration works by two things: cleansing and awakening. Cleansing, there's coverings. Put it in a simple word, Maya. Accepting what is not to be what is. That's Maya. And clearing that Maya, affinity for matter, enjoying matter and all that, that's cleansed by sound. And simultaneously the awakening of our original consciousness. Two things just from sound. Just this morning, I was hearing Prabhupada in a recorded lecture. He's in Kumbh Mela, saying he's speaking to the young American and European followers who were following him to Kumbh Mela. And, it's very austere in Kumbh Mela. The time of year and the place and everything. Anyway, and Prabhupada explained, how did you be 5-6 years ago? You knew nothing. You were living a life of, I forget how he described, a life that was lost. So, and I didn't pay you, and I didn't bribe you. I didn't come with money from India. What did I do? Just two things: hearing and prasadam. And here you are, completely undergoing austere living conditions to hear about Krishna and be in a holy place with your spiritual master. How did that happen? It's by hearing. And so you're examples of exactly what the Bhagavatam says is important. Srinvatasva Kata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantaksto Yabhadrani Vidhanoti Saritsatam. That's the Prayeshu. But so the teachings of the Bhagavatam has its effect if one hears regularly from the right source. Can't go wrong reading Prabhupada's books. Get your reading groups together. And because this particular month As you've noticed, the moon is starting to grow. It's becoming Purnima again. We're moving towards Bhadra Purnima. Balaram Purnima was the previous one, and now comes Bhadra Purnima. And Bhadra Purnima is a very special time in Scripture and within ISKCON that, to celebrate hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and gifting, receiving, and giving to others Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's so, so, so important. And to widely distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, it's such an important service. And the recipients, it's good for the person who gives, and it's good for the person who receives. It's good for everybody. It can spiritualize the world. And it's a dark place. In some ways, getting darker. But in some places also, it's getting brighter. Because people are hearing what they hadn't been hearing before. It's very effective. Proof. The Prabhupada's a very simple example. The Western young people that didn't know nothing about anything and living lives that were disgraceful, sinful, lost, misguided, rebellious, and so forth, becoming Vaishnavas. Whew. By hearing. So, back to the Lord came to propagate Sankirtan. That is an external purpose, as I have already indicated. So he's going through this procedure of indicating who is Radharani amongst all the associates of Krishna. Now I'm going to change moods a little bit. Somebody sent me some very nice paintings because they know I like paintings. I like graphics. So you've seen some of these, at least the stories, but here's Krishna seeing Radha for the first time. Of course, Krishna is shown with a full head of hair, but in Radha with the little braids and the whole thing. But, it's the birth of Radha. And she's sitting in their little crib or little basket where there's many flowers and nice decorations. And her appearance is to accompany Krishna and engage in Krishna, so they engage with Krishna in loving dealings. So there's several nice paintings. Here's another one. This is that same type of thing, but on a swing. And she's pictured in appearing in a lotus. We saw. That's one of the narrations of how Radharani first appeared, floating in a whirl of a lotus, floating down the river Jamuna, and Vrishabhanu found her and accepted her. And another image, the lotus can be just like the abode of Krishna is, Goloka is shaped like a lotus, and Krishna is there and Radharani is there. There's another similar picture. She looks a little older, a little bigger, but she's got the same place. And then slowly she grows, and as she grows, same as when she very, very first appeared, she was attracted to the all-attractive. And there they are, the divine couple, the little boy, little girl, sitting on a swing, enjoying each other's company. And here's Krishna's already wearing his peacock feather. And in his loving exchange with Srimati Radharani. And then she became a little older. And we heard this pastime, the iron pot with 100 holes. Some of you heard that pastime. Some of you were not with us. But this is not meant to indicate that pastime, but one can easily see her in this beautiful painting or that beautiful painting. She's engaged in service. She's from a cowherd community, and they have no running water, so they gather water through this system, some kumbha or some pot. And one of the questions that was raised, Prabhupada, you asked this question, was the system of communication. This was your question? Was it yours? So the system of communication was through parents. No text messaging. Radharani, and I meant to look up, my memory says Sushmuki is the name of her parrot. She has a number of parrots, but her favorite one is message carrier. And in course of time, as she gets a little older, her affection and feelings of separation from Krishna become strong and stronger, and the parrot carries her message to Krishna. And here she is with her mother, Kirtida, and Kirtida, an affectionate mother, looking after her loving daughter and training her daughter in all the nice ways that loving mothers train their loving daughters. This is a very youthful portrait. Many of us heard the story of Kalavali, who was a musician from Mathura, and she came to break Radharani's mood of anger, arranged by one of Radharani's dear friends. So Krishna came dressed like a gopi and had a beautiful voice and played musical instruments, and Radharani became very charmed. And Radharani asked, we heard this pastimes, Radharani asked, what payment can I give you? You've just wonderful service. I'm so delighted. He said, I don't require that normal kind, just embrace me. That'll be your payment. So because Radharani had become mad at Krishna. And you may remember, I certainly remember the pastime where Krishna became a peacock. Because he can do anything. And when at one particular occasion he was with Radha, and Jatila heard that Krishna is with Radha, and so she came to bust them, and Krishna turned himself into a peacock. That was a pastime that we heard. This is one of Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's pastimes that we heard. And so these beautiful paintings, I'm just displaying these beautiful paintings because I like beautiful paintings. And at a certain point in time, you see the trail of rose petals. She's feeling separation from her beloved because there are different moods in a loving relationship, and one of them is meeting, samboga, and another time is separation. So this is the separation mood painting of young Srimati Radharani. Now she's becoming a little older, and when she has young friends, and those young friends of hers, they're called Sakhis or Manjaris, they render service to her, non-envious. There's no competition who's in charge and who's the big one, who's the little one. They love being in Radharani's service. And in different moods, here's a painting. She's anticipating her charming relationship with Krishna, and there's difficulty in their getting together because that's part of love. And there's Krishna contemplating how nice it would be to be with Radha. And he's looking at a peacock feather, and by the peacock feather, he's thinking of Srimati Radharani. He's always thinking of Srimati Radharani. And peacock feather just increases it. So now I'm going to end with a little narration from Brahma-Vaivarta Purana. And it's not even the whole narration from Brahma-Vaivarta Purana, but those of you that were with us earlier, you remember there are many different descriptions of our Radha and Krishna officially married or officially not married. So Brahma-Vaivarta Purana speaks of their marriage. And the place where that marriage occurred is Bandiravan. And this is an actual photograph of what Bandiravan looks like today. It's a big, big series of banyan trees, and there's a nice sitting place for the speaker to sit, and a nice flat ground area for the yatra participants to sit on. And here's our dear Raghunath Das Goswami in his Vraja Vilas Stava, one of his writings. He is describing this pastime. In the beautiful forest of Bandiravan, my beautiful queen, proud Sri Radha, started a wrestling competition among her closest friends. When she eagerly wrestled with Lord Krishna, she brought great happiness to the God of love. Let me worship that forest of Bandiravan. He is immersed. He's not, people may understand, may not understand. He's lost in his loving mood towards Srimati Radharani. So in this narration, when Krishna and Radha are brought before one another, and this is, I'm not going to go into the whole Leela, but I did want to read text that's from Brahmavaivarta Purana. Her beautiful face is as glorious as the autumn moon. Her glistening eyes, robbing the midday autumn lotuses of their beauty, her beautiful eyelashes, wonderfully splendent with black cudgel, her beautiful nose crushing the beauty of the bird king's beak, her nose decorated with a great and precious pearl, her earrings robbing the midday summer sun of its splendor, her lips robbing the ripe bimba fruits of their beauty, her splendid teeth eclipsing rows of pearls, her smile destroying the splendor of jasmine flowers just in the beginning of bloom, gracefully decorated with musk and sindura dots. Her beautiful cheeks were graceful with curly locks of hair, the hairs of her body erect with joy, her breasts decorated with necklaces of the king of the jewels, her waist very graceful, decorated with a belt of precious jewels. Notice each of these paintings are indicating what's being spoken of in this text, Brahmavaivarta Purana. Her feet robbing the land-grown lotuses of their splendor. Her feet anointed with red lac and decorated with jeweled pashakas. I don't know what a pashika is. What's a pashika? I'd have to look it up. Her lac anointed toenails, robbing the regal jewels of their splendor, decorated with tinkling anklets of precious jewels. She's well decked out, Radharani. Splendid with garments as pure as fire, her fair complexion robbing beautiful champak flowers of their glory. Champak flowers are commonly golden in color, as is Radha. And holding a splendid lotus and a jewel mirror. There's the lotus in her lower left hand, and I don't see the mirror in her other right hand. Holding a jewel mirror to see the beauty of her face, she approaches Krishna. This is from Brahmavaivarta Purana, and she's preparing for their wedding. Seeing Radha illuminating the 10 directions with a splendor greater than 10 million suns, everyone became very surprised. And that brings today's discussion to a close. There's a very nice painting that is from There we go. From the writings of Shivara Maharaj. Shivara Maharaj is a very talented writer, and he's immersed in Raghunath Das Goswami's writings, and he has some very talented artists. And this is from one of those talented artists, a nice, beautiful, high-resolution painting of Srimati Radharani. So I was told that there were going to be some newer people here. So if there's some newer people questions, that's perfectly okay. This class was from Chaitanya Charitamrita by design, giving us a little background on who is Radharani from Krishnadas Kaviraj's perspective. And then a little bit of some of the pastimes, beautiful paintings, and this little description from Brahma-vaivarta Purana of the beauty of Radharani and where she and Krishna were married. The wedding was performed by Lord Brahma. It's a very beautiful description of how the wedding itself also. In a remote place. Bandiravan Forest is not like downtown St. Louis or something. It's a remote place in Vrindavan, but very quiet and very peaceful. Okay, you ready for action? Anybody would like to raise some question or entertain some topic? He's ready to bring the microphone to you if you want.
Thank you, Maharaj. In one of the slides you had mentioned Radharani is the queen of all the Lakshmis, right? So all the Lakshmis are expansions of
Yes.
Srimati Radharani. And I think in the second part of that sentence, maybe not today, but in one of the previous class, it said, all the queens of Dwarka
Yes.
are reflections of
Her beauty.
So
Yeah.
just the beauty part?
No reflections of her.
Reflections of her is what I
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
So, expansion, I kind of understand. Some potency of Srimati Radharani. When you say reflection,
if you're looking for the
how to understand it.
I understand your question. You want to hear what's the difference between reflection and expansion.
Correct. Yes.
And I thought about it, and I didn't come up with an answer by thinking about it, and I probably would have to go back to the place where it is stated and see if there's some commentary on why these two different terminologies. So my answer to your question is I don't know. But you can research it as well as I can research it and see what you come up with. If you come up with something that's with clarity, that'll be great. Share it with all of us. If I'm moving on to the next thing and then the next thing. So if between here and the next thing, I remember, I'll see if I can find a reference. What's the distinction between these two? An expansion and a reflection. Maybe just poetry.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Another beautiful session. We enjoyed this. A lot of philosophy, not much stories today. Maharaj, I have two questions. This first question is like, you were talking about the wedding that happened in Bandiravan. It's a very unusual, we don't hear a lot about the wedding between Radha and Krishna Maharaj. So does this happen before Abhimanyu's wedding? Or
let's back up. Back to the first day, part 1. This was part 7. In part 1, we heard that there are different narrations about Radharani's appearance. Because there are different days of Brahma, on one day of Brahma, there's this narration. Another day of Brahma, there's another one. Another day of Brahma, Brahma has a long life. Radharani makes different appearances, and there are different accounts of those different appearances in different sources. And one of the ones we ended up with was Rupa Goswami's description. So now, to your question, this reference from Brahma Vaivarta Purana is one reference. And if you start cross-referencing what's there in Brahma Vaivarta Purana with another appearance during another day of Brahma, you're going to get confused. Or you're going to get it wrong, not just confused. So take a snapshot and don't mix that snapshot with something that's over there. So Abhimanyu has nothing to do with this. In Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there's no Abhimanyu marriage. It's another day of Brahma. Okay?
The other question I was going to ask you, Maharaj, is one of the slides today we saw about Radha be all and end all, Maharaj. So my mind is drawing to some class that we had, like last year, Maharaj, you were giving a class on like how Radharani is always remembering Krishna, the pastime of that bumblebee.
Yes,
where Uddhava goes
yes.
So she's like, I don't want to talk about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And
Yeah.
I'm echoing the sound or the narration you had, Maharaj.
Yes.
So that be all is very simple and easy to understand, Maharaj. Could you elaborate kindly on
It's just
and on?
my understanding of the phrase. It's a conventional phrase. We can go back and look at the Sanskrit of what Krishnadas Kaviraj writes, and it probably doesn't say be all and end all. Rather, the be all and end all is just a modern phrase that means something, and you want to break it down, and it's not really to be broken down. It's just a phrase that means she is everything. And Krishna is everything for her. And vice versa. That's the meaning. There's no be all and end all. It's just a phrase. It's a modern phrase. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for this wonderful class again. So you were mentioning like Radha.
Go ahead. He's just tapping you on the shoulder and playing a game. He's just being a little boy. Go ahead.
So she's Radha Rani is the fountainhead for all those three categories, right, Maharaj? So I was thinking about the concerts of all the Vishnu Tattva comes
same, because they're expansions of Lakshmi.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And a follow-up little, and then about the 5 rasas that we talk about, that neutrality. And
yes.
So they are kept in order according to the intimacy and the relationship with Krishna.
Well, it's not just intimacy. That would, here we go again, comparing. They're different flavors. Let me ask you, which do you like better, strawberry or vanilla? Or chocolate? Or raspberry? You know, they're flavors. Rasa means taste. So just like, you know, different fruits have different rasa, different taste. And you want to compare them. They're different. A grape doesn't taste the same as a cherry. Doesn't taste the same as a strawberry. Don't compare like that.
Okay.
They are what they are. They're 5 rasas. And one might say, as you're attempting, there's a strength or intensity, and the intensity of conjugal love is very intense. But you know, tell a mother that her love for her child isn't intense, she'll hit you with a saucepan over your head. You're less intense than something.
Thank you.
We went down this path a little bit yesterday. You know, superlative and superlative. Go ahead. Something else?
Yes, just another small short question. So you were talking about this Rama Devi, who is within the heart of Lord Mahavishnu, right? That's like Karna Dakshai Vishnu.
No, it's not within the heart.
Of Karna Dakshai.
Within.
Yeah.
Within.
Because
She doesn't manifest without.
Yeah,
No.
because here with the Shiro Dakshai Vishnu, we see Shri Devi, Bhu Devi, and Neela Devi as a consorts.
Okay.
So this we
Go
never
ahead.
hear
Go
about
ahead, ask your
Rama Devi.
question. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we never hear about Rama Devi except for this when we talk about the incarnations comes from Karna Daksha Vishnu. It's happening through Rama Devi. So that's my understanding of Rama Devi, that she's within the heart of Karna Daksha Vishnu, not in
You're
the
repeating yourself.
not in the
She's not within the heart. She's within.
she's okay. She's within, okay. But not within Shirodaksha Vishnu.
You're repeating yourself. Because you gave the names. Didn't you just give the names?
Yes.
Shri Devi, Bhu Devi.
Yeah.
So they're manifest externally with them, with Shirodakshay Vishnu and Garbhodakshay Vishnu, but not with Mahavishnu. And that's a distinction. It's one of the distinctions.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. One question in related to rasas. So we have 5 different rasas, like you mentioned, primary ones. So is it possible that a person can experience different rasas?
Is it possible that one can do what?
One can experience different.
Yes. Here's an example. Uddhava has Dasya and Sakya in a very compatible way. Some rasas are not compatible, and some rasas are. So every living entity is not in this bucket or that bucket. They may be mixed depending upon who they are and their constitutional position of love. You know, you can have strawberry and vanilla mixed. Or you can have, a smoothie with some this berry and that berry blended. You can have some mix, but some may not be. It's not good to take melon together with other fruits. So don't mix them. They don't mix. Don't mix them. Okay.
Thank you,
Ma. So in other words, in the teachings of Rupa Goswami, there's incompatible and compatible mixtures. And a connoisseur may know what's compatible, what's incompatible. Rasa basa, it's called. Abhas.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. It's just a comment that all the pastime that we discussed last few days, that I kind of noticed that it's mostly separation and union. And the separation makes the love more deepen.
Yeah.
And then they unite, and then they separate again.
Yeah.
So that makes the pastime
then there's variety within that.
Yes.
That's certainly a theme, meeting and separation.
Anger and...
There's different. Those are secondary rasas. Secondary rasas are additional rasas. Secondary rasas are additional. So, like put different toppings on the ice cream.
And the separation makes the union much more relishable and...
Well, that's from the transcendental perspective. And when someone is going through that, they're not to ask them, do you feel happier? No. If Radharani's crying, Krishna's crying.
Even the separation gives happiness. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a transcendental teaching. I'll go take it away from Radha and Krishna for a moment. We'll go to Ramayana. In Ramayana, think about Ramayana, for let's go to a different mood. And there's very unpleasant emotion. Dasrath dies. And the residents of Ayodhya, they're feeling, they're feeling a negative emotion from the worldly perspective. And for each of these secondary rasas, there's a presiding deity. The presiding deity for that mood of sorrow is Lord Ramachandra. No, Bharata has his mood, and each of them have their mood. Kaushalya has her mood, and everyone has their mood of sorrow. And Lord Ramachandra is the presiding deity of that secondary rasa. And yes, there's meeting, but in the case of Dasrath, there's no meeting. He expired. It was too much. He died. And then there was a funeral and the whole thing. And when Ramachandra heard that his father had died, sorrow. Again and again and again and again in Ramayana. Now, you want to add?
Yeah. So I was just adding to this one, Guru Maharaj. So even that sorrow, we again hear and read again and again because we identify, our heart identify with that.
It's an ecstasy.
Yeah.
From a trance, it's the sound can stimulate love, and love has different flavors, or rasa has different flavors. Rasa has different tastes. So when identifies with one of the personalities, one or another of the personalities, and then you hear the narration with that ear, and then you feel that feeling that they're feeling. But it's an ecstasy. It's a stimulate. The hearing stimulates the ecstasy of that person who's undergoing that lila in Ramayana in this case. Now, what's Bharata? What's each character experiencing? Bali and Sugriva, the whole thing. Everyone. Jatayu.
Thank you.
Everyone. It's filled with rasa. Okay, he's ready to give you the microphone. You just raise your hand. Okay.
Maharaj, I think in text 85, the purport,
Yeah.
it was mentioned that Radharani is the loving potency of Krishna.
She fulfills the loving propensity of Krishna.
There
She
was
is the loving propensity. You want me to
loving
read it?
potency, I think.
I'll read it. You want to hear 85?
Yeah, so my question was in reference to the term, the loving potency, what does it actually refer to? Is it the ability to love or like the intensity of that love?
Well, what does potency mean? So, there's an electric outlet, and I don't feel any electricity, but if I can plug in my computer and can plug in this and that, and it can power the computer. It's propensity is the power to do something, the capacity or potential. And then that's what it is. That's the noun, and then there's an adjective. So what kind? And she is the loving. She is the power of Krishna's love, and she is the power of Krishna's love, and she feels the happiness of love, and she gives loving happiness to Krishna. So it says that the propensity is the Shakti, the power, like electricity is power. Does that answer your question? Okay. I think we're going to end. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Maharaj ji. Last